Welcome to the Spearo Hangout, where we talk all things spearfishing, freediving and foraging. We're three guys from Devon in the UK who are excited to share some of the learnings from our spearfishing journey with you over the coming episodes. We bring in some special guests along the way to help spread some in-depth Spearo knowledge from some of the most experienced people in the scene. Hey lads, how you doing?
Hey, how we doing?
Evening. You had a good week?
Yeah, really good, thanks. You?
Yeah, still not been in the sea, but still checking the weather every single day.
Yeah, it looks pretty brown, man. Anthony, how you feeling?
Better, much better. Yeah, it's gone now. Man flu, COVID, V 3.0, whatever it is. Yeah, no, it's good. My lung capacity feels better, but
bit out of practice, so
yeah, I need to get the bloody sea.
Yeah,
man.
Don't we all, mate? Don't we all? Hopefully, this Saturday I might get out for a little swim around. Although it's not.
Is that what you're hoping for? Is it?
Maybe. Yeah, I mentioned it to Damon. Just said I need to get in.
If you saw the colour,
the weather looks awful. I know.
If you saw the colour
earlier, didn't you?
of Seaton Beach, you would not be going in, mate.
I don't know about the colour. It's more the stuff that's floating on top.
Yeah. We certainly won't be going to Seaton, that's for sure.
Yeah, right.
There we go. We'll see. So, got Sam coming back on tonight then?
Welcome to episode, what are we, 38?
38, I think, yeah.
Yeah, well, he's opened his new shop, hasn't he? So it'd be good to have a chat with him and see what's going on.
Yeah, absolutely. Should we get him in?
Let's do it.
Hey, Sam, welcome back.
Hello, mate. Are we doing all right?
Hey, Sam.
Hey, welcome, Sam.
Thanks, guys.
Long time no see. Long time no see all of you.
Yeah, it's been a while, man.
when was the last episode? Like 1992? It's like 4 months, isn't it?
It's been a long winter.
Certainly has. How's your winter been, Sam?
Not too bad. I haven't been in the water much, to be honest, this side of Christmas.
No.
But it's been all right. It's been all right. Chilled. Yeah, not so bad. So I'm assuming none of you guys have been in as well.
I don't think I've been in this year at all, actually.
I went in the beginning of winter, scallop diving, but that was about it, really. Yeah. Yeah, it's been a bit of a quiet one this winter.
Yeah, not for me either. I've my new polo sub still hasn't been worn, even from last episode. It was tried on once. I am still a potbelly pig, not potbelly pig. But Sam, for those of you that might not remember, we've already had you on once. But give us a quick introduction. Tell us who you are.
Yeah, so I'm Sam. Those of you might know me from my socials. I've bearded Spearo. On YouTube and Instagram. I've done a bit more Instagram rather than I've done YouTube so far over the last year, but plan to get a bit more back into YouTube and stuff. Recently set up a shop, Underwater Foraging UK. Guys might know about it. We also run lobster courses, foraging courses as well. And I also coach and work with Maxime Blondel, the Frenchman. So loads has gone on in the past year since we last got on.
Nice.
Yeah.
Awesome.
When did you start the shop, Sam? Is fairly recently, is it?
It was May, so coming up nearly to a year. It was around May, June. So it's just coming close to its year.
Awesome. And what kind of things are you selling in there? I mean, obviously, I had a look, but just for our listeners.
Well, everything really. So the approach I've tried to do with the shop is to be more, obviously with Speardoc being a sponsored diver for Speardoc as well, the kit that I get to use as well and obviously have access to with Speardoc is awesome. We've got access to loads of different brands, and it's quality gear, and it's not, a lot of it's not massively expensive. It's quite affordable for a lot of guys, and the main aim of the shop was just to basically sell gear that was quality, not so much about just getting cheap rubbish out and stuff like that. And that was the aim of the idea. And Speardoc's growing as well, which is great. Like you guys might have seen today, Meister is another new company that we're going to have access to this year as well, as along with Cetus. So there are two new brands that are coming, which is absolutely incredible. So just more exclusivity that obviously we can get access to, which is great. But yeah, we range from everything. So we've got stuff for beginners all the way up to the more experienced, more expensive guns like Anthony knows of. So
awesome gear. Yeah,
what is Speardock, Sam? Just
so Speardock is they're a company that basically they're so guys like C4, Tarpon, and we got HS Drop. Who else we got? We got the Meister obviously come in. Loads of different brands that basically Speardock is the middleman, should we say, where they export into the UK. So these brands can't be bought from anywhere outside the UK unless they go through Speardock. But they're all run intimate like together. They're all mates and everything like that. So it's a great like business to get in. Some really good products and stuff. So
that's awesome, and they're quite a premium kind of distributor, I guess.
Yeah, like I mean, the gear is very premium gear. I wouldn't say like you'd be surprised on how the cost of some of the gear as well and how premium it is. Even their like lower ranges, for example, H Dassault is a new one that obviously C4 have taken over. French brand, been going for many years. For example, even some of their cheapest guns, like £160 for a gun, but the quality of the materials within that gun is very high standard. They use parts from the Mr. Carbon and stuff like that as well. So it's overall that it's a very premium sort of brands that they deal with, because at the end of the day, they only want to use the best products as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nice. Awesome. Yeah, but I bought a Mr. Carbon 2, was it 2.0?
2.0, yeah.
Yeah. A 110 or whatever it was. Awesome deal, fantastic customer service. So much so I was sat in your garage rigging it up. But not just that, it was like I got a free training course on how to do rigging to not lose your spear. So there's some little sneaky tricks and tips on how to save money on things like the mono. We won't tell anybody about that.
We won't tell anyone just yet.
You've got to buy something from Sam to get that.
We're saying that so next week I'm going to be I plan to make a video for YouTube in making a gun from start to finish. Rigging. So basically, I've got to go through all my guns, replace the bands. Obviously, the one that I got off Rich recently, I'm going to replace the bands on that, remono it up, and everything like that. So I'm going to be doing one where I'm going to go through, doing loads of rigging and stuff, and sort of showing people what to do. I know Dan Man's already done one, and there's one out there, but but yeah, I thought I'd start going down a little different route as well on the YouTube and maybe do some stuff like that.
Nice one.
Okay.
Yeah. You got your own clothing brand going on as well, haven't you?
Trying everything.
Yeah,
but no, it's all right. It's all right. Obviously, as you can see, that's one of the ones from there. Obviously, I've had Spearo Life for like a long time. When I started YouTube, I made the logo, carried on from there. Didn't really push it much or anything like that. And then the dry robes kicked it off. Obviously decided to try and do it with the dry robes, something a little bit. I shouldn't say dry robes, they're changing robes, shall I say?
Well, copyright. That's it. We're demonetized.
Wait, you've got some other brands that you're selling land t-shirts and stuff for you, or?
Yeah, so we've a group of mates and stuff like that. They've set up their own little things as well, so like their own little brands. Nice. And we've got some ideas together, and obviously we got together, sorted the designs, get the clothing right and everything. Make sure that I think we ordered like must have been about 17 items of clothing overall, all different sort of types of style and everything like that. And then we basically shorten it down to which quality ones that we want. So there's something to add. People like clothes, do you know what I mean? People got to wear clothes. Hopefully we're in an affordable section. That was the hardest part, is trying to figure out a retail price to still make it worth the time, and then obviously still make it affordable. That was a difficult part, but hopefully it's reasonable in that sort of sense. But yeah, people like spearing, and if you got some good brands and stuff,
hey lads, why not? Maybe Sam wants to stock the Spearo Hangout t-shirts for us.
Mate, honestly, I'm open to it. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's there. I haven't got a problem at all. So if you've got your own, merch that you want to put on, I'm happy to do so, mate.
Yeah,
involve Rich doing some work.
We'll have a chat after.
Before we get into so the main sort of theme of today is going to be obviously we're at the beginning or at the end of the winter season, beginning of the season for spearfishing. A lot of people will still be getting in, but we'll talk about gear in a second. But one funny story I've got, only because you mentioned changing roads. Do you remember when we were scouting for the Talon Bay but it was fucking hammering it down. So I've got there. Sam's turned up in his lush murk, got out, and it's like raining, but it's like the wet rain that is just like soaking. But he's not brought a coat, like brought nothing. Or no, you left it in the car.
I think that might be.
Left it in your boot. And so I'm wearing just my normal coat, but I forgot in my bus, I'd left my changing robe or whatever it is, 2 bare feet, dry robe type thing. And I was like, oh, Sam, you borrow that. I'm 6'7". Sam's, what are you knocking on? 5'2"?
Cheeky. I'm about 5'9", 5'10".
Having you wearing mine, it was like, it was Sunday out.
It was scraping the floor, wasn't it? I had to pick it up like it was a dress, like a wedding dress. You know?
Amazing. It was fucking funny. I still think about it. That's it. Kept you warm and dry. The bottom of it wasn't though. All muddy, dragging on the floor. Getting into it. So yeah, as I said a second ago, we've got new season coming up. And you've got a spearfishing store. So we'll just run through quickly, what the top 5 major things is, or are bad English, what the top 5 things are that people should be looking at, and what should they be buying now if they need to. I don't know, Rich, Ben, Sam, what do you think's most important?
Is this aimed at a beginner, or is this aimed at just anybody?
Both, just anyone. I haven't been in for 4 months, even though I've got a lot of the gear, but there might be something that, I just need, like, we're doing a checklist.
Why don't we start with, like, if you're brand new to the sport, where, what kind of things would you need, and then what level, and then perhaps, like, as a gear refresher for us all, what kind of things we might want to invest in if we're, 3 years into the sport, like we are.
Yeah.
Or what are you, Rich? 5 years, 6 years now?
I've given up counting.
He's lost count.
Last year didn't count anyway, did it?
No.
So start with set up for a newbie. If someone was coming to you, new Spearo, and they were coming to you as your shop, underwater foraging, but they were looking for spearfishing gear as well, what would be your shopping list? Start off with the shopping list of what they'd need.
So to be honest, I literally had a client, I think last month, who come to me with that exact same question. And I think we managed to get him roughly to around about 700 quid for a full kit, pretty much, which was, I'd say, is pretty good in terms of, like we were saying earlier, in terms of the quality of the kit you're getting for that as well. He shouldn't have to upgrade at all for a very long time. Suit maybe after 2-3 seasons or whatever, as suits are, but apart from that, the rest of his gear should be all right. So obviously, first off is a float. That to me would probably trump anything else. You can go in a surf suit if you've got one or anything like that, but a float to me is obviously probably be quite important at the top of the list. Obviously, you can go for the cheaper, just the torpedo floats. With this client, we advised to go straight for the big boaty floats, because you're going to save yourself 3-4 floats in the process, because you'll probably be in one of them by the end of the year. So a float is a big one. Like you said, a suit. Obviously, if the budget can afford for a suit, then you'll be way warmer. It'll be way more beneficial. We had a client that we had on the lobster course last year. He did it in a surf suit, middle of winter, did it in a surf suit. Fair play to him. He lasted the whole length. He recently just got a suit off of us, and within 2 days, I got a message going, how amazing is this? Like, it has absolutely changed, how warm he is, the feeling. So he's obviously benefited way from quite a lot from that suit. So suits obviously a good one. There's good prices for suits as well. Our best selling one is the tarpon, which is around 230, 240 now for a full suit. Which in comparison to most others, they're great. I'm still wearing mine. I'm on my 3rd season, and when I say season, that's a lot of diving as well through the summer and stuff. And I'm still no tears, no compressions, nothing. It's a good quality suit. So it'd be float, suit, fins, a good set of fins if you can. That would be another one. I've always said fins and suit are probably 2 of the best investments. Fins being
plastic.
If your budget allows you, yes, because the thing is, if you think about it, like I always use Max as well. He's got a set of carbons that are like 10 years old, if not more. And if you say back then he spent £400, span that over 10 years, that's £40 a year. It's cheaper than a set of plastics a year. So investment wise, obviously it would be great, and if you can afford to budget to carbons, that would be awesome, because it's going to be better on your ankles and on your legs and everything. You're also going to have better finning technique overall, because the plastics sort of make that finning technique give you bad habits when you fin. So if you can. But saying that, C4 and H Salt recently have developed a lot of very, very good plastic fins, and they are really good. They are very lightweight. I think they've got about C4 have done 3 models now of plastics, which are very, very good. Affordability as well is quite good. Their cheapest one, I think, is about 55 quid.
Nice.
So there's options there if the budget, because people's budgets are totally different, and some people may not be able to afford a set of carbons. But we do it this is why I wanted to do the shop as well, as well, wanted to offer people at a very good price that possibly I can. And it's like we do a set of full carbons with foot pockets for 230 quid. So I think they're pretty much the cheapest set of carbons apart from leader fins, but in terms of quality difference, they're way lighter. So you've got that there. If the budget's there and it allows, then great, go for it. If not, a set of plastics will do you until you've got progressed into it and you know it's for you. But look for a good set of plastics if the budget can't stretch to the carbons, obviously.
What is a good set of plastics look like, Sam? Is are you looking at a certain length or
no, it's to me flexibility within the blade. So how soft they can potentially be. What you find is a lot of the plastics are very, very heavy and rigid. Whereas you want something that's very lightweight. Try and find a plastic fin that's quite similar to a carbon in a sense, I would say. I mean, the up fins from C4, the clients for Max have used them the whole of the season. We've even thrown them on, and they are brilliant for a plastic fin. They move in the water incredibly well. When you see people using them and finning with them, they sort of don't have that memory that we all talk about. They sort of they do follow back. You can get them in different softnesses as well, but I believe they're made up of like a polymer rather than a plastic itself. So obviously they don't have that memory so much, but then what helps those plastic fins as well is that the foot pockets they use, so they use the C4 250 foot pockets, so there's no side rails. So predominantly with plastics, a lot of them you see have got massive chunky side rails. That's going to stop flex. It's going to stop that movement in the water. So with the new foot pockets as well, they really do work well together. But yeah, that's what I'd probably look for.
Nice. And moving on to eyewear, masks.
Difficult one, isn't it?
Yeah.
Always a difficult one.
Have you got a way that, so with your client, is there a way that you try and fit a mask to them? Is it just a case of you've got 10 different brands and you just throw them on his face? Or her face?
Pretty much. It's when we Max has got a big box, he must have about 14 different masks, and it is a case of throw it on, don't put the strap onto the face, suck in a little bit through the nose and then let go. And if you've got a nice suction and it's a bit difficult to pull off and it stays on your face nice, listen if you can hear any air seeping out. If you don't, then you should be onto a pretty good mask. I know some people struggle, some people don't. Me personally, there's only one mask that we've recently had SEAC in the shop, and one of the masks, which it's a really nice mask, don't fit my face. Cannot make it fit my face at all. But every other mask has been pretty good for my face. My mate Ben, I think he said he went through about 12 masks before he found the one that fit him. So it's a lot of trial and error, but usually that test is a good one. Obviously, if you can get hands on with masks, it's going to be easier than buying from diving or something and getting a mask and then hoping to send it back and trying to do that because it doesn't fit or whatever.
One of the biggest questions we get is about people with beards and masks.
Yeah.
So
what about the furry men and women?
The smaller skirt, so it's underneath the nose. The smaller skirt, if you can get one that's got a small skirt, is usually quite nice. I noticed, Rich, you've grown your tash back. So
yeah, you could tell how long You can tell how long I haven't dived for, can you? How long
What are
my
you on
beard
about?
is.
That fucking beard grows in like 3 days. I've seen you shave, and then the weekend after, I'm like, holy shit, he's a fucking caveman.
But yeah, it's
Yeah,
a small skirt underneath the mask is usually you want to try and have less going on the beard or on the tash, shall
yeah,
I say? Usually, if you shave, make sure you're clean shaven. And if you grow a beard, make sure it's long because it acts as its own seal as well when it's sort of like matured. Whereas usually, let's say you shave between that and let's say probably a couple of weeks, your hair will come out at sort of a straight and it won't create that seal. Um, Obviously, some guys use Vaseline and things like that. I'm not a massive fan of it. I've never had to use it,
Yeah.
fortunately. But I know it does work for some people. But then you've got to carry some Vaseline out with you, and then when you take your mask off or whatever, and it wears off for a bit, it's just a bit. I don't know. I'm not a fan of it. But maybe if you're having to use Vaseline, maybe look for a different mask that might fit the face a little bit better.
Yeah.
there's nothing better than walking up the beach after diving with a load of jizz looking like or around your tash where the seawater's mixed with the Vaseline. It looks like someone spunked on your face. It's like, especially when you're walking out with Anthony next to you. I mean, it's the greatest feeling ever, really.
Has he got his percent? Is he got his percent this time to add to it?
I do.
You have got a percent this time.
I do.
Yeah, yeah.
But when you go out, if one of you've got Vaseline, it's nicer for me. It's less chafing. For when we go up Mamed after. So, but the thing that I find with Vaseline, because I tried it at the very beginning, was if you touch that Vaseline anywhere on your mask, like it's start again. It's just grease.
Yeah.
So you have to do that full new mask prep where you burn it, wash it in toothpaste, and jizz on it, and all that stuff. All the old wives' tales. But the one thing we haven't spoken about, which is, I would say, obviously from underwater foraging, not necessarily a big deal, but in terms of spearfishing, it is spear guns.
Yeah. So this has been a difficult part because there's so many spear guns on the market, right? And let's be fair, we're not shooting massive fish, so we don't need
yourself. I only shoot.
Obviously, when you went abroad, obviously it's a different gun, which you said in your podcast that your gun just wasn't up for that sort of fish, And I'm sure, Ben, you've obviously experienced it as well when you went abroad. Obviously, we have a one gun fits all, to be honest, for our country. And depending where you are, you guys might want a 75 or an 80 more than a 90. Guys down in Cornwall might want a 90 just for the visibility. You get a bit more range in the length. Anything after that's probably maybe going a little bit overkill. You could maybe push to a 100 centimeter gun for sort of down the end of Cornwall. But gun wise, an aluminium barrel, it will do you fine. Single 16 mil band with a small shaft on it, 6.25 or 6.5 mil spear. That will set you up pretty much well. You can go double 14 bands, generally for the female and the younger guys or girls, just because they might struggle to pull a band back that's been correctly set up. But overall, we don't need massively amounts of all these. There's so many guns on the market. That's the difficult part, and there's too much option. There's too much going on. Obviously, we've made our own guns for the shop, the DB range, and we've set them up. We've chatted with Speardock. We've chatted with a few guys. Obviously, Max has been involved in helping with the setup as well, and sort of picking a perfect all-round gun that you could use, 90% of the time in this country, which is always going to set you up well. Obviously, guns get complicated, and they can get complicated if you look too much into them. But simple setups for this country. Price range, 150, 160 pound can get you a good gun that will set you up for a very long time. Like I had the conversation with one of my friends the other day. He's got one of the DBs, and he was looking to get a carbon, and I'm trying to explain to him that, like, I know Anthony's got carbon, I've got carbon. I think both of you's probably got carbon now. I know.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
At the end of the day, I'd say carbon is just more of a kudos for this country, if you know what I mean, because carbon starts to come into play once you get past 90 centimeters because of you might get flex in the in the barrel, where an
Mm.
aluminium will start to bend. Your carbon's obviously a lot stronger. So don't get me wrong, I've got a carbon 75 centimeter. Does the carbon help me? Probably not. You know, so it's one of those. If we all love carbon, I'd have a carbon gun all day long, you know, just because it's carbon. But most of the time, I was trying to say to him, he wanted a carbon. We've got him a really nice carbon, the H Assault Phoenix. But he kept asking, like, is it going to be better? And it was like, it's not about being better. What do you want that gun to do? Yeah, that's how I'd look at it. So like, I think I've got 4 or 5 guns now, and each one's got a specific use that I'll use for, and that's why I've got it, not because of any other reason. It's just I have this gun for holes and bad vids. I've got this one for my everyday, or I've got this one for pinnacles. I've got this one for bigger pollock or bream. So it's that having a gun to fit the purpose of what you want out your spearfishing, rather than better, if that makes sense. Because the gun he's got, the aluminium single 16mm band gun, that will last him for the next 5-6 years. Like, fine, it's not going to do any issues.
I know we've discussed on the podcast before, but what about reels? Everybody always asks, do we need reels in the UK?
I prefer a reel. We don't need them. There's no right or wrong when it comes to reel or being connected to your float. I suppose it's what you prefer. It's whatever you find more comfortable for yourself. I know people that still connect to their float. It's not going to affect your fishing or anything like that. That's just what you're used to. From a safety point of view, for me, I prefer a reel. Just because it's a lot safer. At the end of the day, what's the worst I can lose? A spear. Like we were chatting just previously before, it's a new spear will set you back 45 quid. It's not the end of the world. Whereas, you know, depends where you're diving and stuff, but safety wise, if your spear gets caught, you can come to the surface. You've got a fish that you've got to leave down there, you can come bring your gun to the surface. You're quite safe. And obviously your gun is then in a way its own drop weight. And if you for example, I connect my float to my belt, that way, if say for example I'm offshore, I'm diving a bit of current, you know, let's say it's 2 knots. If I have to leave my gun, I'm still connected to my float. My boat driver can still find me. Whereas if my gun was connected to my float, I could just be drifting off. And last port of call for the boat driver is obviously my float. They can't see me because I'm not now connected to my float. So there's no right or wrong, but for me, just I prefer the safety aspect of it.
I think, I mean, like you say, safety. I've had 2 instances where I've been on a particular wreck with 2 different Spearos, and they've shot a fish, shot a pollock, and the pollock has darted into the wreck and out the other side. Luckily, both of those Spearos had a reel. We were in quite big currents, so we were diving next to the boat. But they were able to get to the surface holding their gun, and then be able to sort of give that to the boat, stay near it, and then go down and free dive to recover both the fish or the gun. And it just gives you that leeway. But I suppose like you say, being attached to a float gives you that safety, but then you're sacrificing the safety of if you get stuck down there, they can't come get you and send your body home.
Exactly. Like that's one thing I didn't just mention there. I didn't really think about it, but yeah, you are right. It's you at the end of that float is a body, not a gun. You know, so if they can't find you, they can rule out, right, because you know, if you dive down, oh, his belt's there, right, where is he? He's on the surface, let's go look for him on the surface because he's dropped his belt. You know, it's that sort of thing. Exactly. So even if it's you've done something silly and you're at the end of it, like you say, at least you can recover the body. Everyone can sleep easy knowing they found you, whether it's dead or alive. But you know, so yeah, it's more a safety thing. Obviously, when it comes to bigger fish, to be honest, the reel's not even really for bigger fish. You'd probably use like slip tips and breakaways. You know, that would probably be the more safer route for bigger fish. But obviously, reels are used for bigger fish as well, just to allow them to run a little bit more. But yeah.
When we were talking earlier on about you saying that me and Ben have sort of been abroad and shot the bigger fish, the sort of, it's not slip tip, but the connected breakaway is the word you just used. For me, I found that it was actually quite an intelligent way of doing it because it removes a load more of the connections in the gun. So it's like it's removing more error for losing gear, but also it means that you know you shoot. You can take the gun up nearly, you know, every time, 95% of the time, 99% of the time, you just take the gun up and you just watch the float fuck off in the distance.
Exactly.
Like, oh shit, there's a big fish.
It helps with line management as well.
Yeah.
You know, the amount of accidents that can happen because of reel lines, if people aren't, clever enough with their line or understand how the line works, then a breakaway obviously takes away a lot of that as well. There was that video last year that was circulating where the guy got his own reel line wrapped around his fin, and he nearly passed out coming to the surface. I don't know if you've seen it,
No.
but he shot a fish, come to the surface, and then he took his gun back down with him to go and sort out the fish, and then that line that he's brought back down is what in effect got wrapped around his. Yeah. Whereas leave the gun. You know where the end of the line is. Leave the gun. You can just follow the line down, let it float.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, let's bring it back to newbies a bit, shall we? So,
Yep.
if we're talking about getting wetsuits, let's say they can afford it. I've never really had a personalised wetsuit or one that's measured to myself. I know Anthony has.
I haven't put it on yet. I have once.
If you're going to get a Percet, do you recommend getting a Percet? Do you recommend getting one that's made to measure? Like, what's the crack?
If you can fit off the shelf, then lucky you. Yeah, go for off the shelf all the time. Obviously, I'm very fortunate. I'm lucky. I fit off the shelf. So obviously I get a cheaper suit, which is amazing. Obviously Anthony's very tall. You got likes of Tony, for example. He's very tall and thin. So it's those ones we've had a couple of guys that are like maybe short and stocky. It's very difficult to find a suit that fits in that sense. 90% of the time, the trousers, you should be able to fit in all the trousers, regardless of what your shape and size. So you should be able to find trousers. Maybe worth just getting custom tops. Obviously, it reduces the price then as well. But if you can't find one that's off the shelf, then maybe look into that custom realm, depending on how bad, or how baggy or stretchy or tight it is.
Yeah.
So if you fit off the shelf, perfect. If not, obviously, maybe have a look for a custom top at least. Maybe try and find some trousers that are off the shelf, because it will save you a bit of money. I mean, I'm sure Anthony paid what, £500-600 for the polo sub.
Yeah, about 550 landed after all the import tax and stuff.
Yeah, so it's a big chunk. That's a big chunk on the suit, whereas off the shelf, 230, 240, 350 max, like, it's a big difference. So Percet wise, yeah, I'm for one. Anthony hasn't tried his out yet, but it'll soon be on Percet side.
Yeah. No, I mean, from my experience, I started off I spent a bit of money when I first started, but I did start off with what is it? The material on the outside.
What, the wetsuit?
Yeah, the wetsuit where it's
just the lycra, like.
Yeah, with the material on the outside, not smooth skin. The opposite.
Yeah, lined.
And the only thing that I'd say is that, again, with this, it's, in my opinion, if you're a newbie, like, get one of those suits first, and the same with all this gear. Like, if you're a newbie, if you can go and get a cheap, inverted commas, cheap setup to make sure that you're going to enjoy it, then great. But after your first season, I'd say that's when you then invest in decent gear, and also speak to other Spearos about what wetsuit they'd recommend, because that's one thing that I didn't do. I sort of just went straight to a shop, bought it, and it didn't even last half a season. It was but at the same time, I did get a lot of diving time out of it, and it, like you said a second ago, it was an off-the-shelf thing that I'm not an off-the-shelf person, so I was probably stressing it out in width ways and all the other ways a little bit too much. But
Anthony, I've got a question for you. What's the biggest thing that newbies always want to buy from the start?
About
no
dive watch.
Yeah.
Lol. The new fucking Mark III's come out. It came out in like November, and I've been looking at mine going, "You're just old hat now." But
I think Anthony had been spearfishing for about, I don't know, 2 days before he went and bought like Garmin Descent.
Fucking 1,200 quid watch.
Too much money. That's why he's got too much money.
Dear. I don't anymore. That's the reason why I've hardly been spearfishing, because I need to focus on work, pay it all off. The fish that I eat are really expensive overall.
What's the crack with watches then, Sam? What do you recommend?
So Watches is a weird one. It's one that I'd say don't focus on as a beginner.
Mm.
I'd say just go and enjoy, listen to your body, but just go and enjoy it. Don't focus on numbers. Like a lot of people focus on numbers quite a lot, and that's what they think a watch comes into. Just enjoy it. Obviously, you're going to be your natural instinct, your body's natural instinct is going to know when you're getting difficulty or not 90% of the time. So just enjoy it, and then once you start getting to a point where you think you can benefit from it, then it's probably worth taking that stab. For example, one of my mates that we dive with, he's only been diving about a year. And towards the end of the season, we were going out. He was hitting 11, 12 meters on like 40 seconds, and he was doing very well. So it was like we've all said to him, get yourself, you should start thinking about getting a watch now. Because of that extended time he was under and the depths he was starting to hit, more just so he can know his surface intervals. So that was more the main thing that we were like, maybe you should start getting a watch now, just to focus on, because you are getting past this, that safety sort of area, that 5-6 meters, So where you'd probably naturally feel when you're going to get to that point. In terms of dive watch, there's loads out there. You got some that start from like 80 quid. You got obviously like one that Anthony's got, for example, that's like 500, 600 quid.
1,200.
Is it 12? You got the two. You got the two, have you?
I got the Mark II.
Oh, not. Sorry, I thought you had.
I think it was
the
1,080.
Mark one.
No,
okay,
like 1,080 quid.
Yeah. See, I wouldn't. I personally, I wouldn't spend that on a watch. That's personally me. I probably wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
If I'd given one or I had the money and it wasn't an object, yeah, I'd probably get one. But personally, I couldn't see myself justifying it, if you know what I mean. But
can I? But I wanted it.
Like, don't get me wrong, it's worth the money. It's worth the money because obviously you've got GPS on it. You got you've got all the bells and whistles with it, which is obviously awesome. And I suppose it doubles up as a smartwatch, right?
Yeah.
So, the people that have got an Apple Watch and then, you go dive in, put the two together, you've got one watch instead of two. Like, I get it,
Yeah.
But yeah, there's some okay brands out there. I'd probably say so the main reason I went to SEAC for the shop was just for their watches. That was the main thing I went there for, because I know they do make a good watch.
Do you rate SEAC over Sunto?
I've not used it, so I can't compare. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I started off with the Salvamar one. It was all right. The amount of people I spoke to that had the Salvamar one, they ended up breaking in like 2 months and stuff. I must have got lucky because I was on like 4 years on it. So, but I can't compare much. But I've just heard SEAC make a really good watch. So we got the watches in. Obviously we got the cheaper ones, which I think are like 130, 140. They do a one that's around 200, and then they do the bigger one that's like 250, 260. And in comparison, compared to, because obviously Cressy's a very big name in watches as well, I'd probably say they're very, very much on par. I've got the SEAC Apnea HR, and I really like it. It's a good watch. Does more than what my other one did, and does everything I need it to. Yeah, there's some good watches around there, but even for the cheaper ones, it does what we need to, just as long as it's free dive and apnea specific. Yeah. I think the problem is with the Suntos and stuff like that, they're very difficult to figure out what's apnea related, because I think I started looking into them and it's difficult to find out what model has a free dive mode on it.
Yeah.
Which I found.
I've been using that SEAC since I started, actually.
Yeah.
And the reason I invested is exactly like you say, like a safety thing. You want to know your surface interval, and for me, like before I had the watch, I was clearly pushing it too much, clearly, diving back down way too quickly, because you just forget about it, don't you?
Yeah, sure.
When you're in the thick of it. So yeah, I wouldn't be without my watch now. And like I've been out with Ant, and he's he's left his watch at home, and he feels fine. Like for me, it really affects my like bottom time if I don't have my watch in there. It's like a security blanket, I think.
Oh, I've forgot my watch once, and it panics me. I hate it. I feel naked. It's just I feel like I can't dive.
So when I went and did the course, whenever it was 2 years ago, with Go Freediving, and did the freediving course, they all had a watch and I didn't. And so I started without having the watch. Then I got the watch, and I got too fixated on it, and it was just like, Oh my god! Like it's so like you can set all the safety triggers. So you can set when it vibrates at 10 meters. You can set it at a minute to vibrate and make a beep and all that shit. But actually, it was making my diving worse because I was fixated on, oh, I've got to be at 45 seconds now. And then I'm like, hang on, why is it not vibrated? And I'm
Like waiting for the beep. Yeah.
Yeah. And also when sometimes you're diving, and I was diving around, say, like 8 to 9 meters, and I've moved off a little bit, moved off a shelf, and I'm mid dive, and suddenly my watch vibrates. I'm like, whoa. I'm going past 10 meters, and I'm like, hang on, what the fuck? Like I was in 8.5 meters a second ago. What's going on? Yeah. And so actually, I've turned off all the safety features now. I'm just like, it's good for the, as you say, the surface time. But I don't look at it. Like I'm just like, it vibrates after 2 minutes once I've been on the surface, regardless of my dive time. And that's
what do you do? Why did you buy this watch? What do you actually use it for?
It tells the time.
It's so he can take calls when he's underneath the vehicle.
So I'm fucking like, I'm obviously like a pretentious prick. And like when I was on the freediving course, and I saw like the people that had the Sunto watches, and they were like this plastic 80 quid watch. And then Scott, one of the guys that I was sharing the room with, had a Descent Mark 1, and just on his wrist it looked fucking sexy. And I was like, I don't care. Like I'm buying a watch. And then I had to say to Rachel, yeah, no, but it's because if I die, it will text the R in line. It will tell them where I am. Like it doesn't. It can do an emergency call if I'm in trouble. So I, one of my last dives at the end of last summer, I got in at Teignmouth, and I was just doing a shore dive. The family were on the beach, and it was a spring tide. So it was like coming out of the Tein, it was pumping. And I was waiting for slack tide, and slack tide was like in 20 minutes. I got a little bit impatient and thought, oh, it doesn't look like it's moving that quick. Anyway, it was an 8-knot sort of tide pumping out, and I was swimming only across, say, a 50-meter stretch of the mouth. And I very, very nearly got taken straight out. Like I was finning like fuck, but at the same time I did know that like it would be really embarrassing, but I can set my watch to trigger a text to, I think I've got it set as Rachel, the RNLI, and then a friend of mine that works for the RNLI. So it's like worst case scenario, I'm going to be really embarrassed. But yeah, other than that, there's no need to buy this fucking watch. Like, absolutely not. Like, it's kind of the same way we were talking earlier on about carbons. However, I will say that the Mr. Carbon 2.0, I've got one, is it 110? It's that I've got, I think. It's not 105. 105.
Yeah.
And I wanted to mention it earlier on, but this thing shoots like a fucking laser. Like, it is so different than any other gun I've tried. Like I have my Cressy Comanche, whatever it is, 75, and that was awesome. I had it for 2 years, but this thing shoots like a laser. But also, I wonder, and I think I had a chat with you about it, is your size as a Spearo, could it mean that like a 75 for, say, Ben, in Ben's hands is going to be 80% of work, whereas that 75 in my hands, because I'm bigger, is it like, could I have a 105 and it acts the same as a 75? I wonder if I don't know whether that's a thing or not.
I don't know. It's still just an extension, isn't it?
Just
yeah, it's not
to pick on me. It wasn't a serious question.
No, it is. No, it is serious. No, it is. Like for me, like the 105, I feel, or I always did feel, that the 75 was a bit short. A little bit micro.
Basically, you bought £1,000 spear gun to shoot a 15 centimeter.
It was not £1,000. It sounded to be a deal. It was 125 quid. Shut the fuck up. They're lying, Rachel. They are lying.
on a serious note, what is your guys' fitness like over the winter?
Awful, mate. I'm the heaviest I've ever been. I weighed myself this morning, and I was like, how the hell did that happen? I've been like trying to keep my fitness up, kind of. Awful. It's just like not diving. I reckon, I was saying to you guys earlier, wasn't I? Like, I reckon I'm a lot more stressed than I am when I'm actually like diving. every other week or whatever. Like it definitely is a big stress reliever. And not being able to do it for what is months on end now. Yeah, it's starting to get to me, not gonna lie.
Did you do anything over winter for sort of like dive fitness? You've been in pools and stuff, guys, or
Not really, mate. You?
no?
So I've got back into surfing. I've got back into surfing
cool.
a bit. If you
Nice.
haven't seen on the socials, I've been putting up some videos. My mate managed to pull me back in. So yeah, I've had some activity of some sort in the water.
Yeah.
You know, it's apart from that, you know, I was diving up till Christmas, but haven't done much since that. But like you say, you feel worse because you're just doing less. You just don't seem. Do you know what I mean? It's like just not really doing a lot. I find if you're not getting out, and like you say, if you're feeling stressed, obviously if you're getting out every week, that's a big stress relief off, and it will last you until the next week, you know. But whereas if you like, say for example, you're on 4 months, I couldn't do that. You know, maybe a couple of weeks is all right, but like 4 months, I think I'd be sort of punching the walls by now. I think just trying to get out and do something.
Chat with someone a while ago on one of the podcasts about just like forcing yourself to do it, because last year's weather was just atrocious. Like we were all, well, I know I was just incredibly demoralized by everything to do with spearfishing. It was like anytime that you wanted to get out, it was either blown out from viz, or the weather was shit, or you know, other things came up. So hopefully this year we're going to get a cracking season, and we're all going to be in loads. But
it's always difficult, isn't it? I mean, I've had a couple of messages from a few listeners where they're sort of middle-aged, you know, a bit overweight, and they're wondering whether or not they can get into the sport, you know, whether they're going to be able to do it, stuff like that. You know, you're someone who teaches spearfishing, Sam, so it'd be good to hear it from you. But you know, in my regards, you know, I'm not the fittest. I've like cracked on this winter. I've lost a few kilos and like back in the gym and everything else. Where does someone start if they're looking to start in spearfishing, they're a bit overweight? What should they be doing? How they should be doing it? I mean, you know, you can go into a load of detail, but you don't need to. Just give us a quick rundown of it, really.
Just get out and do something. Something's better than nothing. Whether it be swimming, whether it be like getting in the gym or whatever it may be like that. I mean, to be honest, I call this unpopular. Looking at 60 to 70% of the Spearo population in the UK, I wouldn't say they look athletic. Do you know what I mean? And that's even myself. Like I'm not like, there was a point where I was like really ripped, really whatever. Mate, I'm podgy as hell now. Do you know what I mean? Like you look at most guys, and they're not like European and the rest of the world free divers. Do you know what I mean? But they're amazing spearfishermen. Like they do really well at spearfishing. You know, you look at like a lot of the nationals, like they do so well, but they don't look like the athletic. Do you know what I mean? So I think in terms of like getting into shape, like getting the gym, it doesn't even have to be cardio. I'm not a fan of cardio. Never have been a fan of cardio. I find that you can shred fat way quicker, build muscle, and be way more sort of healthy just doing compound lifts, you know, and you can spend 30 minutes, 40 minutes, 2-3 times a week doing compound lifts, and you'll be amazed how much progression you get than going for a jog on a running machine or something like that. I mean, our sport's quite weird in the sense of we're more relaxed. We need to try and get relaxed. We don't do a lot of movement in that sense. So, fitness wise, I just do something's better than nothing, regardless of what it is. And I find that the majority of us within this sport have some sort of ADHD or autism or something like that, which I've noticed very much. And we tend to have other hobbies, you know? So, you know, for example, Anthony, you work on cars. There's your workout.
There's my depression.
Call it what you want. But body wise, you're still lifting, you're doing manual labor. It's like, you know, like a lot of my mates, like I've got some bricky mates and stuff like that. Like they're picking blocks up all day. That's their workout, you know. So I suppose it depends on your life and your lifestyle.
One of the things I would, sorry, Rich.
Yeah, I was just because I think you nailed it on the head there, really, where you're saying about something's better than nothing. Because I put a post up the other day
Yeah.
And it's just been me in the gym, I don't know if you saw it, and everyone's like, oh, don't do these hypoxic squats, this, that, all this sort of shit. And I'm like, yeah, no, I get it. Like, I'm not here trying to compete for the National Freediving Championship. You know what I mean? I'm sort of trying to get into shape and, just something's better than nothing, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
my whole point is that if you're a newbie, and because I've had these messages, right? So if you're a newbie and you're middle aged, you're overweight, just start doing something. Go for
Yeah.
bloody walks, do whatever. Like anything wall based is going to be preferential, right? Because obviously, like you're getting yourself more comfortable in water
Yeah.
while doing exercise. So
Yeah.
that to me makes a lot of sense. So at the minute for me, it's like getting in the gym twice, 3 times a week, and then at the weekends get as much swimming in as possible at the local pool.
Yeah.
And it's better than nothing, isn't it?
I think
Fair
the
enough,
thing,
mate.
the main thing that people like may try to get, don't treat it like a chore. Do something that's fun with it, if you know what I mean. Like, so if you have got another hobby, whether it be riding a bike or like me, I've started surfing again. So there's another, like, it's not boring to go for a surf, So if you find something, treat it that it's fun, not a chore. And I think it people, even if it's a case of just, I want to start spearfishing, fine, get yourself a snorkel and some fins and go swim.
Yeah.
Go look. Just, do you know what I mean? You're getting out, but you'll progressively notice the more you do it, I suppose.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Was, I mean, one of the best forms of fitness for us as spearfishers is spearfishing. Like, get in the water and finning, and even when I get home after a couple of hours, it's visibly noticeable the difference in the muscle on my legs. I get home and they're more defined. They've been worked out, and you don't even think about it. But what I'd say for sort of newbies is, don't worry about your fitness, because actually your spearfishing ability has really got nothing to do with your fitness. I've noticed just over 2 years, my spearfishing has improved by spearfishing. Like, it's the fish come to me better because I'm more comfortable on the bottom. I know more about what the fish are not thinking, but like I can hunt better. So 45 seconds on the bottom, it's massive. You don't need 3 minutes, Taj. Scare the shit out of me every time you dive. You're a lovely man. But it's just get in the water. If you go to the gym 3 times a week, just get in the water 3 times a week instead. It's free and it's stress relieving, all that jazz. So I'd say as a newbie, just get in. It's going to take you time to learn spearfishing and get good at the sport. Smashing 7 days a week at the gym, I don't think it's going to help you much, really. It might improve your fitness, but it's my opinion.
And it's not going to make it any easier to equalize. It's not going to increase your breath hold.
No.
You need to think about doing other things for that. I've been doing the old apnea walk, where you hold your breath and hope you don't fall on the concrete. And doing like this thing, to hold my nose and
equalizing.
Yeah, it's not working very well. But I've been trying to do it like once a week or so, just to like, because I've been in the water before, and I've felt like I've forgotten how to equalize until I've like done a few dives. Like there's definitely like some muscle memory there that, and if you keep that going, I think that really helps when you are able to jump into the water.
Yeah.
Well, I don't want to talk our turn and say something that I don't know much about, but me and you, Ben, have had discussions about like people's tubes and obviously the station tubes being possibly a bit narrow and that. So obviously where you don't work out those tubes or use them or open them up, whatever sort of, what you want to call it, over the winter, they find it hard to do that when they get back into diving in the summer. So it's something that you should definitely keep on top of, especially like, equalization, even though, never mind your fitness, just keeping equalization in your mind and practicing it once a week, I guess would help, wouldn't it? Like, it can't hurt, surely.
It don't hurt. I do it. I do it all the time. Like,
Yeah.
even I do it without even thinking sometimes, especially when you got a cold and stuff like that. It's just nice to keep your sinuses moving as well. Trying to keep them sort of clear.
Any gear we've missed? Just trying to think. Socks, gloves, like you should, but I've always found with socks and gloves, just cheap Amazon,
cheap as possible.
Yeah, they only
Cheap as
last
possible.
5 minutes anyway.
if you look after them and you want to get yourself an expensive pair, go so. But me, I put holes in them very quickly. So
I do.
cheap, but if you're getting new socks and gloves, get them at the start of the winter. You've got a fresh pair for winter. Then by the summer, when they've all got holes in, it's warm enough. It doesn't matter. It's just there to stop rubs and cuts and stuff. But yeah, cheap as possible.
Snorkels, they're kind of much of muchness.
Yeah, just a normal tube, cheap as possible again, as long as it. Yeah.
For newbies, and I'm going to go out on a limb and say this is probably the only advice I'd give. When you're diving, take the snorkel out of your mouth. Don't keep it in. I'm going to stand my ground. I disagree with anyone that says, "Oh, yeah, keep snorkeling, it's safer." Fucking no, it isn't.
Well, whilst we're on snorkels, I did buy a snorkel that had quite a large mouthpiece. Not that I knew it did, but it had quite a large mouthpiece. And when I was diving, it like I cannot be gay, man. It was making me gag when I was trying to like dive with it. And but the smaller mouthpiece for me are so much better. It just depends on your mouth shape, doesn't it?
Yeah, I suppose so.
You could be gay with Ben. He's only got a little toddler. It's fine. Or me, actually. Talking about earlier on Pissettes, like I was like, maybe they designed this for Max because they didn't design it for me. Like, doesn't even touch the sides.
Oh man, we're gonna have to edit this bit. But anyway, yeah. I even had Ben cheering up there. Yeah, mouthpieces do make an impact. I swear it. Like the smaller ones, I mean, it's different for everyone. But yeah, I really couldn't dive very comfortable with that snorkel. So just something to think about when you're buying a snorkel.
I didn't even know the mouthpieces were bigger or smaller. To be honest.
Yeah.
I thought they were just a generic size. To be honest.
No, they're not. They're different sizes. So just bet how much you can fit in your mouth at once. You know.
The only thing I did have with a snorkel, because I lost a couple of snorkels, was where they're manufactured. Like talking about the mouthpiece, the edges can sometimes be sharp. And I had one where it started rubbing through the top of my gum during the dive, and it sort of like in between my gum and my lip. So I just had to like sand it off effectively when I got home. But other than that, snorkels.
You can get ones with valves in, can't you? And that's where I started because that's what I'd used like previously snorkeling. It was awful. Like
they're horrible.
Just to avoid it.
Some guys love them. Like
it gets like little bits of sand in there or something, and then like your snorkel's slowly filling up, so you're relaxing constantly on the surface. You're nearly there, and then all of a sudden, like your mouth's full of water, and then you got to blow it all out again. And
I had a mate who had he had one of the valves on the bottom, and he had a bit of seaweed caught in it, and it kept the valve. And I was snorkeling with him. The next minute, I'm just hearing, and he's like spitting water out because he's just sucking it in. And it took us. We literally took it apart, and he had a big clump of seaweed in the valve, and we're just like. Oh, okay. Like, wow, right. It's just you got less things to go wrong with just a tube.
Yeah, it's
just a tube. That's it. It's simple. Whereas, like you say, the valves, they're just
But do you like the like the ones that are a little bit flexible as well, though? Like they're a little bit softer on your head.
Yeah,
that's quite helpful.
Yeah, there's a few different. C4 have just released one for this year, which is a full soft snorkel. So we should be getting them in within the next month, I think. So it'd be nice to see them. Apparently, they're really good as well. Cool. But yeah, like you say, something that's soft.
I've seen a few different ways of doing it, but how are you attaching your snorkel to your mask? Like as a beginner, obviously you probably just use one of the clips that comes with it, but more experienced spearers tend to use like a few different methods, don't they?
So I moved because I used to have the clip, and then why did I move? I moved to the other one because my clip broke. And then I moved to the other way. So on the back of the mask, best way to line it is obviously each mask strap's different. If you can do the bottom hole or bottom strap right at the bottom, tuck it under that, and then basically it will have a nice alignment at the back of your head. So when your head's in the water, your snorkel will be perfectly vertically out the water. Whereas with the clips, they tend to come above, like by your forehead. So a lot of people will start then sucking water in because their snorkel's basically hitting a bit of a wave, or it's even just hitting the surface itself. So it just aligns it up nicely. So if you can tuck it in the bottom strap of the back of your mask, it gives it a really nice alignment. But just remember, if you take your mask off, it's not attached. It's the amount of people that lose it because of that.
Yeah,
That'd be me.
I've lost a few like that.
I know some guys. I think Tony's made like a little bit of neaprine that he's basically
Yeah,
made the same sort of clip and he slipped it through the back so it's still
yeah.
connected.
I was just gonna say that. Yeah, Tony gave me the idea where you cut like a figure of 8 neoprene with 2
Yeah.
holes in it, and then slip it over the mask and through the snorkel. Then, so
Yeah.
it's like all together, but it's in the same place that you were talking about. So therefore, it stays out of the water, but essentially, it still does come out. But you got far less likely of chance of losing it than haven't you? So
Yeah, sure.
but yeah, that's a great little tip. But yeah, I mean, leading on to all this, then Sam, you obviously you do courses. What courses are you doing this year?
So obviously I'm sticking with the foraging courses. I think I'm on to the second year now. I think it is.
Yeah,
It's gone well. It's been a bit slow this beginning of this year. But economy and everything else could be. I think it doesn't matter. It's not just this sector that's been slow. But we're getting some good bookings in for March as well, which is good. So obviously the foraging is going to continue. We've had really good success with it. Everyone's really enjoyed it. Always been positive at the end of it. So really happy with that. Max has added a foraging section to the levels. So I believe if I've read it right, that they'll be basically the same tiered sort of level, but for foraging. So it's a bit more for the beginner type of guys, because obviously we're not diving deep. There's not much requirements or anything like that. So that's a new additive to it. And it's still a 1-day course, which is good as well. And then obviously everything that Max's structure is using as well. So for me, it's just sticking with the foraging courses for a minute. I don't plan on adding on just yet. Just keep it going with the foraging courses at the minute. But yeah, Max has added a few different stuff as well. So
Anthony, you've been out with Sam, haven't you, on one of the courses?
I have indeed. Yeah, really, really good day. I think we got a good couple of lobsters, maybe a lobster each. I can't remember.
Yeah, I think we got about 4 or 5 out. One was buried, wasn't it?
Yeah,
I think
one was buried. One had 1 claw.
Yeah, that was, and yeah, we had about 3 or 4, but I think we found maybe 5 or 6, didn't we?
Yeah,
total.
A couple of brown crab. One of them that we just still can't figure out how the fuck it got in that gaff or how it's going to get out. It's like he's stuck in there forever.
They tend to do that. They do tend to do that.
But yeah, no, it was really knowledgeable, and it was the one thing that I'd take away from it. I still think about now is when you're going spearfishing or when you're going, in the sea, you sort of try and have a bit of a pre-plan as to what you're targeting, and if you're going to look for lobsters and crab, like put in your dive, focus on looking for them. So one of the things that obviously during that. During the class or during the course was we didn't have our guns, and it was just lobster hook, because obviously it was for foraging, and it was awesome. It was like being so much freer, but also leaving the hook down there, which was really good, so that you know where the hole is. So yeah, no, really, really, really good day out. Sam's a all right bloke, but no, it's really, really good.
Epic, man. And what have you got for the planned up for this year, Sam? Like any goals that you want to achieve, or?
Last year I wanted to hit for nationals. That was my goal last year. Obviously, health problems stopped me from entering nationals. So this year I'm focusing on doing well in the nationals.
Yeah, sweet.
I'd like to try and go for like top 5. Ideally, that would be the sweet spot for me. So I'm giving it a go. Over the past couple of years with the nationals, I've just been learning, and I think it was a shame that last year happened, because I think I was into my rhythm for it, and I think I was going to do quite nicely on it. I was gutted at the what was it? What was the last comp? What was the last one? Meadfoot, wasn't it?
Meadfoot, yeah.
Yeah, I had 2 fish that didn't size, and those 2 fish lost me a lot of points, which really annoyed me. But because looking at the points I would have got, I think it would have been top 3, I think, in that for that comp. So that really annoyed me, that one. But it's take away from it, learn from it. So next year, I'm probably going to focus more on the nationals, and try and target that. I don't think there's many fish species wise that I'm massively focused on. Maybe a big pollock, but then depending, we're still waiting for what this pollock stuff that's going on at the minute, whether we're going to be allowed to, or whether it's going to be like France and just 2 again like bass.
So I have some information.
Do you have some information? Do you?
I do. So on Wednesday, I spent the whole day in Plymouth at the Pollock FISP, which is Fisheries Industry SP. I can't remember the rest of this. You can tell that I paid attention. But yeah, I spent the day there, and it was a range of disciplines. So you had the commercial fishers, commercial rod and liners, netters, day boats, loads of recreational, and then I was there obviously representing the BSA. And the sort of the chat was that pollock over the past 15 years is going down considerably, especially the bigger fish.
Mm-hmm.
So pollock are a fast-growing fish. They reach maturity by 3 years, and at 3 years they're anywhere from sort of like say 30 to 42 centimeters is where they are mature. So at the moment, it's like, well, our minimum landing size is 30 centimeters, which as Spearos, I know most of the people that I know sort of laugh at a 30 centimeter pollock.
Yeah.
Like, you just wouldn't bother taking it. It's not an eating fish. So there's a possibility on an increase in minimum size, but at the moment there is no view to bring anything in. They're still trying to get the data and research. ICES put out a paper that was with the limited research that they've got from Europe, which didn't really take much of the UK stuff into account. So yeah, it's really data and research deficient. And the BSA is looking to work with CFAS and DEFRA on how we as Spearos can help, give the data and work with them. So at the moment, the feedback that we sort of got was that a big pollock now is £12, whereas 10 years ago it used to be 20 plus. So the bigger fish are they're much deeper, and 2, they're really few and far between. They seem, and a bit of a tidbit for anybody that's more north than the southwest, they seem to be having big pollock in Liverpool. It's like they've moved up north because of the increase in water temperature, which then has brought in bluefin tuna down here since 2015. So it seems to be that they're getting big pollock up north more than we are down here. So it's like the fish has moved up. Scotland, again, from the pollock fish, Scotland is the place to go if you want big pollock. They have got huge pollock up there.
Well, because there's not a ban at the minute, it's quite. Max is doing 2 weeks up in Orkney camp.
Nice.
So I'm on the first week. So if that's where the big pollock are, then
that'd
be nice.
We did that trip up to the Isle of Skye, and we saw some beautiful pollock.
Nice.
I think we didn't have enough time, really up there.
We'll have to plan another trip here.
100%. I'd love to go back now.
Yeah, man.
Have a week.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Mate. Lucky.
But yeah, so news at the moment is no news on pollock. But likely to go bag limit, similar to bass.
That's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing.
No, and if you look at how bass has responded to the measures that they put in the beginning, everybody was, oh, this is really shit. But now look at bass. I saw so much big, decent bass last year.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, we just need to start using a bit of common sense to manage our fisheries. I think, which
I think a raise in minimum size isn't a bad shout.
Yeah, bring it on.
Yeah, for sure. 42 centimeters, all day long. Yeah,
which means that I think 42 was their end of year 4, so they've had a season to spawn.
Yeah,
and sort of like a guaranteed season of spawning. So, and unfortunately, pollock spawn at the same time as bass. So the bass close season this year, was it January to March, or was it February to March? I can't remember, but I know it was shortened for bass. And there was discussion on sort of bringing pollock in line with that, because they spawn from January to March. So pollock are spawning now.
Fair enough. Cool.
All good.
All right, well, it's good to have you on again, Sam, and we appreciate you coming on, and we'll look forward to seeing what you do with the shop, man.
That's all right. It's a pleasure. Always a pleasure to come on with you guys.
Thanks for coming on. We need to get out diving.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
We're getting loads of dives together this year, that's for sure.
Well, Rich keeps saying about coming down to Plymouth, so
Yeah.
we'll show you some spots.
Yeah, sweet, man.
That'd be awesome, mate. Thank you.
That's all right.
Awesome.
No problem.
Thanks for coming on,
Cheers,
and good luck this
dude.
year.
Appreciate you having me.
Cheers.
Sweet, mate. Catch you later.
Catch you later.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye. That was a cracking episode, wasn't it?
It was, mate. You always say that though, and I always go, "Yeah, it was really good, mate." And it was. It's always really.
That's because
good.
I enjoy them all really thoroughly.
I do. Do you know what? Like sometimes I'll listen to them back. Just like I find it really good for learning about. Yeah, I mean, I guess everyone's like slightly different, but like particularly like some of those earlier episodes we did with like the pollock and where to find them and stuff like that. Like I'll listen and I'll pick up something every time I do. It's a bit sad listening to your own podcast, isn't it? But
what do you mean sometimes listen back? I literally spent the last winter listening to every single one back. Just and as you say, every time you listen to it, even though we were there and present, you don't absorb it all in one go, do you? So it's good to get some info back out of it. And I was thinking about over the winter actually. That's probably why. Well, not probably the only reason, obviously, but it's probably a very big contributing factor as to why you guys progress so quickly as well. Because you had that knowledge, it's great. It's great for newbies to be able to access it.
yeah, it's cool. Yeah, long may it continue, mate.
Yeah.
So we got coming on?
Old Smoky Joe over there.
What? I don't even smoke anymore. I'm a choo-choo train now.
No, he just inhales calories now. Apparently, he's busy smoking glazed biscuit.
Can't be any better for you, mate.
Well, thank God it's not soggy biscuit.
No, that was a really good episode with Sam, and he's a good guy. I really like Sam a lot. So,
as we said during the podcast, like this, I've dealt with him business wise, and I bought things from him. Known him for most of my diving career. Really, really sound guy. And really knowledgeable. Hopefully his health means he can get in and, as he said, compete and place this year. I'm competing this year.
How are you?
Yeah, like I'm not doing support boat and stuff anymore. I've done enough for I haven't done enough for the BSA yet, but I feel I've done enough to earn to be able to actually enjoy myself in national competitions. So I'll be competing this year.
Yeah.
Cool. I hope
because
find someone to run support both. I want to compete too. So
that's the problem. Everybody wants to compete.
Well, but all the clubs. So for those that don't know, we've got 3 confirmed BSA nationals hosted by the local or regional clubs this year. 1 in Cornwall, 1 in Dorset, and then 1 in Southsea and Sussex. I think Wales might even be hosting one as well. I know there's Dorset Open, a few other things. The BSA calendar is on the BSA Facebook, and I'm pretty sure we can find it on the website, right?
Yep, all the events should be listed. So we haven't got any details yet because we're obviously waiting to decide start times and food stuff and all those kind of extra details, but they will be going on as soon as we know. Yeah.
That'd be good. Look forward to meeting you all there. That'd be awesome.
Epic, guys. Well, until the next one. See you then.
Cheers, lads.
Cheers, boys. Nice.
Bye.